Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Chesney, and I'm a food anthropologist and a food systems designer with IDEO. And I am so glad to be here today with Lisa Zwack, who is the head of sustainability at Kroger. And I have the privilege of working with Lisa and the entire Kroger Zero Hunger, Zero Waste team through the IDEO Circular Economy of Food Collab, which is a network of organizations that comes together to design solutions and learn together how we can accelerate a shift towards a regenerative food economy. So we're going to be sharing a little bit about what we're learning together in that work and the many other efforts that Lisa is involved in about advancing a people-centric circular economy. So Lisa, I want to start by asking you, what is the circular economy and how does that connect with your role at Kroger?
Great. Rebecca, I just want to say how pleased I am to be on this in this conversation with you today, because I was just remembering that it was almost exactly a year ago that we were in Boston together, where I met you for the first time in person. I was doing my first design sprint with the IDEO collab. So I feel like the timing is very good, even though I wish, of course, we were in person versus, online. But anyway, so yeah, when it comes to the circular economy, I really think of that as moving away from more of the linear, take, make, dispose model, and thinking how we can find better, end uses for the materials and things that could otherwise have, become, gone to landfill. And this connects really well with our Kroger Zero Hunger, Zero Waste social impact plan, which we launched just about 3 years ago. It's really our vision that we can support and create communities free of hunger and waste. And so I think this connects, very closely to that. We have set some really ambitious targets in terms of donating more meals, so 3 billion meals by 2025, achieving zero food waste. And the way that we bring these things to life really is reflective of the circular economy. It's rescuing food through our food rescue program. It's making sure that we're recycling any food that we can't sell or donate in our stores. It's, we've also set new sustainable packaging goals in the last several months. So again, reflecting the kind of work that we want to do to make sure that we're recovering more materials for better end of life opportunities and reusing them more responsibly. And one way that we do that is obviously through innovation and the partnership that we have with Collab, and the finding that opportunity to think more holistically and in a more innovative way about how we can find more circular solutions for food that might otherwise go to waste.
Exactly. And I think what's so wonderful about combining someone like you with the deep expertise in sustainability and that kind of human-centered approach is, even though the circular economy is about reducing waste and rethinking materials, underlying all of those challenges are the people. It's the eaters, it's the people who are making decisions inside food companies, it's packaging designers, it's farmers, and the constraints and choices that they make. And so a lot of what we're doing is looking for the human side of some of these really big systems challenges. Yeah. And so you mentioned in the last couple of months that you've started this new, you've set some new packaging targets. I'm curious, with all of this work that you're doing, how did the pandemic in the last few months impact that? Did it slow down your ability to drive innovation towards a circular economy?
Yeah, it's a great question. Certainly as a grocery retailer, we've been very fortunate in that we have been able to stay open and continue to serve our customers and communities. And, we're very grateful for that. And certainly while some things, we have shifted how we've done certain things to, address the business essential, things that we need to manage, like making shopping environments safe for our associates and customers, and adjusting supply chains, to adapt to what the current or most pressing needs are. The really positive thing is that we have maintained our commitment to sustainability. That really hasn't wavered for us. And, me in my role in particular, like I have continued my focus on figuring out what our future should look like. What should our packaging goals be? What should our carbon commitment be? What should our no deforestation work look like, into the next 5 to 10 years? So I think that has definitely demonstrated that we are committed, and we'll continue to be so. And we have had, some interesting, opportunities along the way too, to flex during the pandemic while continuing to serve our customers and be more sustainable. So, for example, I know there was some concern earlier on in the pandemic about, the transmission of the virus on reusable bags, for example. But, we're very committed to offering our customers that opportunity. And, we did our research and looked at what the data was telling us, and, conferred with our internal subject matter experts, and decided that we still want our customers to be able to bring that sustainable, behavior with them, into the Kroger store. And so we said, you can keep bringing them in, but you just have to bag the groceries yourself. And that way our associates could also feel comfortable if they were worried. Another thing too is as I said, the supply chains have seen some shifts. Sometimes there's not enough supply, sometimes there's too much. And in one case, with dairy, for example, once the pandemic hit and some industries were starting to shut down due to closures or stay-at-home orders, then suddenly there was too much supply and not enough demand, for example, for dairy. And so we have this great existing partnership where some of our suppliers already donate milk, and that we process, we donate the processing, the effort and the packaging through our 19 dairy plants. And then that donated milk goes to benefit communities where we operate. And so we actually took that opportunity to use that partnership, but we expanded it to include additional suppliers and used more milk. So we were able to donate, I think it was around 50,000 gallons per month in the months of May through August, in addition to what we normally do during the pandemic. So that was another way that, things were changing, but we were able to maintain our commitment and even amplify what we normally do to further benefit our communities, but then obviously reduce waste too, because that milk would have been disposed of if we couldn't find a better outlet for it.
Yeah, I love that example. I remember seeing the articles about milk being dumped and, and wondering what's going to happen to all that milk.
That's right.
And I love that example because a lot of what circular innovations can be about is in what ways can we leverage existing infrastructure or unused capacity in existing infrastructure so that any new models that we're creating, whether it's reverse logistics or something else, doesn't actually create even more emissions and create more problems as we're trying to solve another problem. So it was interesting to see how the pandemic shows us how organizations were able to use existing factories, existing infrastructure to very quickly adapt. And that's something that we've seen with, beer companies making hand sanitizer and those kinds of other efforts. And then I'm curious, the ability for you to partner with suppliers kind of upstream in the supply chain very quickly to move that milk. And it sounds like that was already a little bit in place, but the ability to scale that up is incredible. And now that we're a few months into the pandemic, are you starting to see partnerships or other types of things that might shape how the industry works going forward? What might we see that could be different because of the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, I think generally, we think of our corporate responsibility as, E, S, and G, so environmental, social, and governance. And, I think those have all been present, for many years. But I think the focus here has really, the S, and E, S, and G has really risen up more to the top. I think and that's for many reasons. It's, we're in the middle of a public health crisis. So everyone's very focused on people and health and, better well-being, for all of us and for a number of reasons. So I think that's definitely changing. And then, our focus on diversity, equity, inclusion continues to grow. And I think that's true for many organizations. And we're really trying to invest in that and, continue to solve the problem of food insecurity and food access, because I know that has also increased in the last many months too, just as our living arrangements and the way that we exist has changed too. But really from a partnership perspective, so much of the work that I do in my role is really focused on partnerships. I lead in a central role, but I need all my internal and external partners to make the commitments and the strategies that we put in place happen. So it's working with our internal partners, like when we set our new packaging goals, it's working with the manufacturing team and the sourcing team and our brands team and many others to really make that happen, because they own that work day to day. And then similarly, we're very excited to have external partnerships. When we launched our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste social impact plan, we said from the beginning that this was not something that we could do alone, and that we really needed our partners and new partners, existing partners, all the partners to come in and to be part of that process. And so that's where the work that we do in the IDEO CoLab is so meaningful. And it's a chance for us to work with your design experts and other companies and other, people who we bring into the design sprints to really think more creatively and open-mindedly about what does the future hold and how can we think differently. And I always like the opportunity to bring in our internal subject matter experts to those conversations too, so that they can have that space to think about how things could look differently, down the line. So I think that's huge. And then obviously we partner closely with the Chamber of Commerce Foundation on the Beyond 34 pilot. And that's another way that we're kind of convening multiple organizations around the way, how can we work together in a city to find scalable solutions that can increase the recycling rate. So they have been a really excellent partner in terms of convening many people and organizations in Cincinnati to think through how do we make communities more circular? How do we adopt more recycling rates and change behaviors and provide the infrastructure that's really needed to make that happen?
Yeah, it's so great that you've mentioned the policy side. You mentioned even internally our brands, the procurement and other teams at Kroger. And so, I think a lot of times when people hear human-centered design, there's sometimes kind of an assumption that really means user-centered or consumer-centered design, which is very important. But if you think about something as complex as the food system and so many of these other really complex industries, there are lots of people involved at various stages, whether it's a farmer, whether it's someone who runs a procurement team at Kroger, and their constraints, their decisions, those are the kinds of things that also ripple through the entire food system. So it's really about thinking about aligning many stakeholders together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very true.
And, as we think about shifting towards a more regenerative economy, it's a challenge because we're kind of building the future while living in the present. And so much of the reasons why our food system has all of these challenges is because of the decisions that we made in the past. So how do you navigate kind of being between two worlds and getting us towards that future as a leader?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, as I mentioned, the partnership is really crucial. And making sure that we maintain open communication and, both internally and externally. But at the same time, it's sort of looking back to what can we learn from the past and take the best pieces of that, but then really think forward looking too, to say, hey, what's coming? What do we need to be mindful of? What are the opportunities that our stakeholders are sharing with us, and just making sure that we are communicating that amongst ourselves, and then also just leveraging all the people you mentioned, like our supply chain, our internal partners, and so forth. So it's really including all the people that I think can have something to contribute, and they're just across the board. So many people who can be a part of that, and that's what's so exciting. And we love being a convener and also just being part of that conversation.
That's great. Well, I know so many people who have been with us today are policymakers, they're leaders in their organizations, they're leaders of nonprofits. And I think we've all just heard a call to action from Lisa to join Kroger and so many of us who are looking at enabling the circular economy. So hope to see many of you, more of you involved in all of these efforts. So thank you so much, Lisa. It's always a joy to work with you and excited to see what comes from your work in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. It was so great to chat with you today.